If you have a busy work schedule and you've been struggling to achieve your fitness goals and overall just find time for the gym, then I'm going to break down my exact strategy for how you can completely transform your physique in as little as 2 to 3 workouts a week. In fact, with the right strategy, everything it takes to achieve your dream physique can be achieved in as little as 2 to 3 hours a week, as long as you focus on the right things. And I'm going to show you exactly how. And for those of you new here, my name is Matt Dorico. I'm an online fitness coach, and I've helped over 100 busy people transform their physique with my level up transformation process. And a majority of these transformations were actually achieved by individuals with busy work schedules, doing just 3 workouts per week, some of them even 2 workouts. So if that sounds like something you'd find helpful, then let's get into it. All right, so the first thing you actually need to do is crush the limiting beliefs you have that being busy is actually holding you back from your goals, right? When you think about it this way, you will always have busy seasons, right? You might be busy now, eventually you're going to get not busy, but then sure enough, you're going to get busy again in the future, right? You're always going to have cycles of busy and not busy. So if you can't make it work when you are busy, then it's never going to last, because the next time you get busy, you're going to fall off. So really what it takes is you need to build the long-term habits, have a long-term plan that you can actually execute when you are the most busy, so that you can continue to do it every single time in the future that you're busy again, right? And then when you're not busy, it's a walk in the park. And the second thing to consider is frequency of training does not equal results, right? Working out more doesn't mean more results, right? What gets you the more results is structure, nutrition, and recovery, right? Having a more comprehensive plan that's focused on improving and moving the needle forward. So with that being said, the first thing to cover is training. How do we train properly so we're making the most amount of use out of our workouts? And this is where the minimal effective dose comes in, right? Really the mindset is, what is the minimal effective dose, the minimal amount of effort that I need to put in to move the needle forward? And when you're pressed for time, you need to be as efficient as possible to make sure that everything you're doing is actually producing a change. So the way we're going to set this up is you just want to be hitting each muscle group once per week, right? As long as you hit each muscle group, each exercise once per week, you can still make progress. And in terms of how to split up your workouts, there's really 2 options that I recommend: a 2-day split or a 3-day split. If we're talking the 2-day split, this can be a push workout, which is chest, shoulders, triceps, pushing muscles, and a pull and legs workout, which is back, biceps, and legs. And this is great for a lot of people because they're opposites, right? So ideally, it's better to have a day of rest in between your lifting sessions. But if you're busy, your schedule doesn't permit that, you can do these back to back because you're hitting opposite muscle groups. So that's the first option. Second is you can do an upper and lower, an upper body day, a lower body day. This can be good, especially if you're trying to really focus on lower body. However, sometimes it is a lot to do your whole upper body in one workout, but really it's kind of preference of whatever you're focusing on. And then I personally like doing a chest, back, biceps, and a shoulders, leg, triceps. This is great because you're separating your chest and shoulders, so it's easier to progress on, a bench press and a shoulder press when you're doing it on separate workouts, right? That's the one flaw I have with the push workouts. And then lastly, you can definitely do 2 full body workouts. When setting this up, I would pick some sort of a push, so chest or shoulders. I would do a pull, so either like a pull down or a pull up or a row. I pick one of the 2. And then 1 major leg group, so either quad focus or hamstring focus, right? But full body workouts can definitely work for sure. Another option is 3-day splits, which for a lot of people, if you don't want to combine all of your exercises in 2 workouts, you can do a 3-day split where you have 3 workouts a week, right? A really good beginner option is a traditional push-pull legs approach. You can get very far with this. At a certain point, I like to switch to a more of an Arnold split, doing more chest and back, legs, I throw traps in there, and shoulders and arms. This is great. As I mentioned before, splitting apart the chest and shoulders, they tend to improve quicker when you train them separately. But yeah, those are my 2 recommendations. Obviously, you can get creative with this, but as long as you're hitting each muscle group once a week, that's really where you want to be. And in terms of the frequency, as I mentioned before, it's more ideal if you have, training on non-consecutive days, having a day of rest in between your sessions. However, it's not the worst thing if you have to do back-to-back days. That's just what will get you the best results. So For most people, I recommend if you can do 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is perfect. If you can only do 2, maybe something like a Monday, Thursday, or maybe one day during the week, one day on a weekend when you're less busy, right? However you want to split it up, but you can get away with literally just 2 workouts, but 3 is definitely more ideal. So you want to set it up in whatever is realistic that you can actually see yourself doing week after week and not falling off. Now that we went over the split and the frequency, what do we actually do, right? And when it comes to exercise selection, you really want to get efficient. You want to pick the best bang for your buck exercises. And I've kind of narrowed it down to my key lifts, right? That's what I call them, where there's really 6 exercises that are going to produce 80% of the results if you're training for an aesthetic proportionate physique. First is a pull-up or a pull-down. Then you have incline bench pressing. I personally like this more than flat just because it hits the chest, the upper chest more proportionally. There's also shoulder press, which is great. A row variation for your back, some sort of a squat variation, which just can be, barbell squat. You could also do split squats. You can do hack squat, leg press, right? A lot of options there. I typically pick one of those and really focus all on that. And then lastly, a hip hinge variation. For me, this is typically a Romanian deadlift. However, the other options, you can do like a hip thrust, right? Whatever works better for you. So when it comes to your workouts, most of your attention and energy should be on those key exercises. Now, obviously you want to include some secondary accessory exercises too. These are things like your bicep curls, your tricep extensions, lateral raises, face pulls, reverse fly, shrugs, lunges, dips, machine exercises, chest fly, right? Things like that, where it's more isolation type movements. Definitely good to include these in the program, but not as important as the compound, the key lifts, right? Now, having a good split, having the right exercises, that's half the battle, but the second half is you need to actually have a strategy to improve, right? You need to figure out, how can I actually stimulate muscle growth with literally just 2 or 3 workouts a week? And how we do this is progressive overload. Progressive overload is essentially what causes the muscle growth, right? Muscle is built by increasing the tension over time on your muscles to place a stimulus for growth. If you're just lifting the same weight every single week, you're not having enough of a stimulus for your body to actually decide it needs to grow, right? You need to force yourself through a higher training stimulus. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. The easiest way is just to either increase the weight or the reps on your sets. And in order to do that, you got to be tracking your workouts, right? Every time you work out, you got to write how much weight, how much reps you're doing for all of your sets. And it might seem like a whole process, but it really only takes a minute or 2 out of your workout. And it's one of the most important things you can do. So that's the first part. Second is I like to use rep ranges when I work out. So instead of, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 8, having a set of, 5 to 8, maybe an 8 to 10, maybe a 10 to 12, sometimes maybe even a 12 to 15, right? Having a range of how many reps I'm trying to hit makes it a lot more efficient because there's more room for growth. And when it comes to your sets, I like to use a variety of rep ranges. So instead of, 3 sets of 8 to 10, maybe do a heavier set of 5 to 8, a moderate of 8 to 10, and then a lighter of 10 to 12, right? I like to kind of have a balance, making sure you're training your strength and getting some more volume in there as well. So how this works, right? How you progress with the rep ranges is something that I call double progression. So if we're talking, 5 to 8 rep range, how this is going to look, let's say we're using 50 pounds, you're going to go in there and try to get 8 reps, right? Might not get there. You might get 7, and that's totally fine. What you want to do the following workout is you want to go in there and try to continue to max out the rep range. So you got 7 last week. You go in today, you're going for that 8th rep. And let's say you get it. Great. You maxed out the rep range. Now for the following workout, instead of trying to continue adding reps, we are going to add more weight. So this could be 5 pounds, right? Going up to 55s, but we're going to drop the reps back down. So instead of going from 50 for 8 to 55 for 8, that's kind of challenging to do a whole 5-pound jump like that. So we're going to go for 55s, but just try to get, 5 or 6 reps, right? Back down to the bottom of the rep range. And then from here, we do the same thing. We try to build the reps back up to 8. So this might look like 55 pounds, 5 reps. Next workout, you might get 6 or 7. The workout after that, maybe you get 7 or 8. Next thing you know, you've maxed the rep range again, right? And from here, rinse and repeat. You add 5 pounds, you drop back to the bottom end of the rep range, and you literally just progress the weight and the reps together to make sure you're always improving every week, either with 1 rep or 5 pounds. There are lots of different progression techniques. This is just super simple, super straightforward. So for most of you, I would just stick to this and it will get you very far. So that's really all you need to know for the training, right? Getting in 2 or 3 workouts, having a plan, trying to improve every week. That's really the best you can do. Now, the second half is obviously nutrition, right? Let's say your training's on point. How can we eat and make smarter food decisions to speed up the process? And really the first thing you need to realize is the key lever of body composition change is energy balance, right? And energy balance is just the balance between the calories you consume versus the calories you burned. Every day you eat a certain amount of calories through food, and you burn a certain amount of calories based on the activity you do. How this works, and if you consume more calories than your body burned that day, you're gonna gain weight. If you do the opposite, if you consume less calories than you burned, you're gonna lose weight. That's pretty much how weight loss, weight gain is dictated. How many calories are you eating compared to how much you're burning? And if you're eating more, your body's gonna store that energy. If you're eating less, your body's gonna actually tap into your fat source to make up that energy. With that in mind, what is the solution? And the first thing is we just gotta track our calories, right? So we have that feedback of how much we're actually eating every day. And once we start tracking the calories, we can start to adjust our daily calorie intake to make sure you're moving in the right direction in terms of the weight loss or the weight gain. And on top of that, you can also do the opposite. You can increase your calories burned through more exercise. And for most people, this can just be increasing your step count, but you could obviously do both of these. You can move more and eat less. So there's a lot of ways to play around with it, but really the key thing to take away is you just need to figure out how you can change the calories consumed and the calories burned to make sure you're either in a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus, depending on your fitness goal. Now, when it comes to tracking calories, it can seem super complex, but there are apps that make it very simple. My favorite here is the MyFitnessPal app. It's very user-friendly. It has a massive database of food on there, and you can even use your phone's camera to scan the barcode of a food, and it inputs it on the app for you. So definitely recommend checking this out. Another thing you can do is if there are certain meals that you consume regularly, you can track the meal just once, input it and save it in the app so that every time you have that meal, instead of trying to track everything, you just hit that meal. It's all saved in there and you get the exact calories and macros on the fly. Lots of ways to make this easier, but definitely recommend starting to track your calories, or at least look into how many calories are in your favorite foods, right? If you're at the grocery store, turning the food over, looking at the nutrition facts. The main thing you can do for a good physique is just improving your nutritional awareness of what exactly you're putting in your body. So that being said, how much calories should you eat, right? And this is obviously going to be different for everybody. If you want just generic recommendations, the first thing you got to do is figure out what is your maintenance calories, right? How much calories are you typically burning on a given day? Most people, if you multiply your body weight in pounds by 14, it's pretty similar to what you're likely burning. If you're more active, if you're more of an active person, it might be closer to 15 or 16. But if you're 180 pounds, you're moderately active, maybe work out a couple times a week, nothing crazy, you're probably burning around 2,500 to 2,700 calories per day. And that is essentially your maintenance calories, right? So now that you have that information, you can then adjust that to correspond with your fitness goal. So if you're trying to lose fat, you need to be eating less than that. And I recommend subtracting by anywhere between 300 to 500 calories from that number, right? You can obviously go more than that, but it's just very unsustainable to stick to. So occasionally, if you have a couple low days, that's totally fine. Once a week, maybe you're a little bit lower. If anything, that might speed up the process, but you definitely don't want to be getting too low with your calories. So if we're using the same example of 180, this could be around 2,100 to 2,400 calories every single day. And that's your daily target for fat loss. If your goal is the opposite, let's say you're trying to build muscle and just prevent the fat gain, which I call lean bulking, what you want to do is eat 200 calories above your maintenance, right? So if you're 180 pounds, same example, you should probably be eating around 2,700 to 2,900 calories. There is really no reason to eat more than 200 calories above your maintenance because your body can only use around 200 calories per day towards the muscle growth process, right? If you have, a massive calorie surplus, your body can't even use all those calories for the muscle building process. So a lot of that is actually gonna get turned into fat. And even from my own personal experience, if I'm eating a ton of food all the time, I'm just generally feeling sluggish and I'm getting brain fog, right? I feel better when I'm close to that maintenance level. And, an extra 100, 200 calories is just going to give you that extra boost in the gym, right? Might be able to hit those PRs easy. Really the sweet spot is building muscle, but then maintaining that sharpness, the definition, right? That's when you look good in aesthetic. So now after calories is the macros, right? What are the macros? Well, it's your protein, it's your fat, and your carbs. There are a lot of different people that will tell you different things. For me personally, with my clients, protein intake, anywhere between 0.7 to 1 times your body weight in pounds is the sweet spot for both fat loss and lean bulking, right? So for someone who's 180 pounds, this is anywhere between 126 to 180 grams of protein per day. Now, you certainly do not need to go that high. I personally eat around 0.8 times my body weight. So 180, that's about 140 grams or so. This is a number where I feel like I have all the benefits of the protein and my workouts are great, but I'm not cutting too much into my carbs and my fats, right? You don't want to go too high protein because then you're just going to run out of calories for good quality carbs, good quality fats. So typically, 0.8 times your body weight is ideal. You can go as low as 0.7. You can go as high as 1. Probably wouldn't go too much higher than 1 though. That's it for protein. In terms of the carbs, I have a very simple stance on this. It's just eat enough carbs so you have energy through the day and have good workouts, right? A lot of you are probably eating too many carbs. You don't really need all those carbs unless you're an athlete or you're super active, right? So for me, I don't eat a crazy amount. I maybe have carbs in 1 or 2 of my meals and I just eat enough so I feel like I have energy. If I feel like I'm deprived of energy, I'll probably just eat more carbs, right? So it's really that simple. In terms of the fat, you definitely do want to get enough fat in it. I personally get 35% of my calories from fat. However, you don't necessarily need to go that high. You can go as low as 25%, but you really want to prioritize good quality fats in your diet because that's what's responsible for, your health, your hormones, your satiation. Your hunger is literally a hormone. So if you are neglecting your fats, you're going to have a pretty bad hormone signaling, and it's easier to eat a lot more food and not feel full. Now, the last thing with nutrition is obviously the micronutrients. Let's say you're eating the right amount of protein, fat, and carbs. You got your calories on point. What you need to realize is not all calories, not all protein is the same. And this is where the nutrient dense versus the empty calories comes into play. I recommend getting 80 to 90% of your calories from whole foods, right? Single ingredient, nutrient dense stuff versus the packaged and the processed foods. So as you can see on the screen, things like ground beef, avocados, sweet potatoes, these are all literally whole single ingredient foods, and they pack the most amount of nutrition in those foods. Same with fruit. It's one ingredient. You're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals from that. Now, if you're prioritizing 80 to 90% of your calories from those foods, then I think it's totally fine to get in 10 to 20% of those calories from maybe the not as nutrient dense foods, right? These can be, the foods you're craving, the treats, right? The things that make the nutrition sustainable, right? I don't really see a reason to eat 100% clean because sure, it might be great for you, but you're not going to stick to it, right? Unless you have crazy willpower. So if you let yourself have, 10, 20% of those calories from the foods that you enjoy, it's easier to actually stick to your calories long-term, kills those cravings, right? Now, with this in mind, it doesn't mean eat any junk food you can find because you want to make sure you're not causing inflammation in your body. And this typically comes from ingredients such as seed oils and artificial sweeteners and also preservatives, right? If you turn over the packaging of a food and there's just a ton of ingredients, you can't pronounce half of them, it's probably not the best for you. That's why on the screen here, I've actually picked a certain amount of quality foods that have good ingredients that still kind of, kill that craving, right? Like this is a organic chocolate, tastes good, very little ingredients. The cookies here, very clean ingredients. The Siet chips, right? The whole brand Siet is, grain-free, clean ingredients. So I would definitely recommend focusing on, if you're going to have treats that aren't going to harm your health, cause inflammation, right? Stick to the clean stuff. So hopefully you found that helpful so far. The last thing with nutrition is actually meal prep. Because some of you might think, all right, I know what to do with my nutrition now, but I just don't have time to cook my meals. And I used to have this problem, especially if you have a busy work schedule. And oftentimes it's the lunch meal that's the trickiest. You can eat your dinner at home. If you're going to have a breakfast, you can eat that at home before work. But for lunch, what do we got to do to stay on track? At least for me, there wasn't a lot of clean spots near where I worked. So you essentially would have to bring your own lunch. And the easiest way to do this is actually just meal prep. I typically recommend just taking your Sunday, maybe Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and just cooking your lunches for the week. Cooking in bulk. It really doesn't take that long. And then you can get some glass containers to actually put your food in and then put it in the fridge, grab and go. And all you got to do is just microwave it when you're ready to have lunch for that day. Couple options here. I simply recommend some sort of a protein source, like a ground beef. You can get steak, chicken, turkey, fish, right? Just to get that good quality protein in. Pairing it with a carb source, like a potato, sweet potato, rice, vegetables, and then also having some good healthy fats. such as, avocados are great. Maybe even some cheese, as long as it's not super processed. You can even throw in some like a butter, olive oil, coconut oil. But yeah, really the main takeaway is you 100% can plan ahead to make sure you have good quality options throughout the week if it's a problem for you, especially with that lunch meal, to get in good quality food. So this is an option that you can try. But even if you can't meal prep, even if you have to go with a less healthy option, I still recommend at least trying to ballpark the calories of what you're taking in, right? If you got to eat Jimmy John's, you can still calculate the calories of what's in your sandwich and just make sure you're holding yourself accountable with that. So hopefully you found this helpful. And if any of you are actually looking for a more complete, customized approach for the gym that actually fits with your goals, with your schedules, with your exercise selection, then I would highly recommend checking out my Level Up Transformation program. And this is my flagship program where I've had over 100 people transform into their best physique by working with me directly and having that customized plan for their goals. So if that's something you think you would find helpful, then stick around to the end of the video and I'll explain exactly how I can help you achieve your fitness goals and pack on a bunch of lean muscle and strength in 2025. Essentially, when it comes to any successful fitness transformation, there's 4 pillars you want to solve. You got training, nutrition, accountability, and education, right? You could have 1 or 2 of these, but if you don't have all 4, it's gonna be very difficult to have a successful transformation. For training, what we're gonna do is we are going to build a custom workout program for you in your schedule using an app called True Coach. I'm actually gonna take you into this app. So this is an example of someone on the program. This guy is doing 6 days a week. You don't have to do 6 days a week. There's guys doing 2 days a week or 3 days a week, right? So it's really what works with your schedule. Let's say you're doing 6 days a week. It's set up like a calendar. So Monday, you're gonna have your Monday workout. Tuesday, your Tuesday workout, right? And it's really taking the guesswork away because you're gonna see exactly how much weight and reps to do. You're gonna know exactly what exercise to do. And then there's also video tutorials attached to everything. So if you're not sure about form, you wanna make sure you're doing the right thing, you literally just click on the exercise and you will see exactly how to do it. You're gonna have your specific plan that fits with your schedule. It could be anywhere between 2 to 6 days a week. And the cool thing about it is I do the progression for you, right? So you don't have to worry about what should I be doing for my lifts. You just do what I assign. You write down what you did in the comments, and then I do the progression for you to make sure you're always having visual proof of progress each week, right? Muscle growth is built through progressive overload. So we need to make sure that you're progressing each week so that you're actually stimulating growth. So that's the goal of True Coach. There's a place where you can take progress pictures. I think it's good to track these sorts of things. You can track your weight, really just a lot of cool features on here. So that is how the training works. Just to show you another example, right? This is someone who's doing 3 days a week. So if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, I have work, I got school, I'm super busy, you can absolutely see great results with just 3 days a week. Busy shouldn't be a problem here, right? Nutrition, what we do is we go over, I like to give you calorie and macronutrient targets. This is, protein, fat, carbs, just so you know exactly how much you should be trying to eat each day. And with that, I help you keep track of those sorts of things, right? If you're not really sure how to track calories, I make it very easy for you. Another thing we do is we go over some meals, recipes, grocery guides that are going to help you hit those goals, right? Based on your schedule, what are the best meals, foods, and things to pick up at the grocery store that are going to help you do that. And then, if anyone who wants like an actual meal plan, you want exactly what to eat, I do that as well. So it's really just how much structure you want, but how can we solve nutrition so you get the result you want? 3 is accountability. And what we do here is I like to check in every week. So we're going to check in, go over how your progress is going, how the list went. Every couple of weeks, I'm going to have you take a progress picture. And of course, through True Coach, we're going to be tracking other data like our lifts, tracking steps, things like that. So this is a good way to stay accountable so that weeks don't go on. And let's say you have a problem this week, you don't want that problem to drag on for another month, 2 months. You want to solve it right now. And then the second part is there is a inner circle community that you'll be a part of. We have an Instagram group chat, and we also have a school community where like-minded people like yourself will post meal ideas, gym PRs, music for the gym, right? Helpful stuff that will benefit you, right? You might see a question and be like, oh, actually, I was wondering that same thing that someone else asked and it helped you, solved a problem for you. So super cool having that community aspect as well. And the last part is the education component. And this is where the school community comes in. So you'll have access to this community. Like I said, this is where you can ask questions and there's, I'll post some helpful things in here. Classroom is where it's at. I have a module for, getting started so you know what to do. Nutrition is really the big one here because I break down exactly everything you need to know. Calories, macronutrients, energy balance, grocery guides, meal ideas, how to track calories, how to adhere to your calories, right? All the things that you need to know. I go over all my training strategies. I go over protocols for cutting, protocols for bulking, mindset, goal setting, supplement recommendations, health optimization, testosterone, hormones, things like that, that are going to help you. And then, of course, all my meals, cardio, stretching, mobility, and then, of course, exercise, library of form and teaching you how to do certain exercises. So definitely a plus as well. Hopefully you got a better sense of the program. If you are interested, if this is something you think will be helpful, you can see yourself doing this. The next steps are to set up a call with myself. What we're going to do is just go over your goals, see kind of where you're at, what you're looking to achieve. And if I think you're a pretty good fit, I'll go over the details, what it looks like to get started, and we can get going from there. So hopefully you found this helpful. Really hope I can help out. And if you like what you saw, let me know. Let's set up a time to touch base, and I hope to see you inside.